Okay, so let us start the class. So I hope my slides are visible to you, Harpit.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So in the previous lecture, we had discussed, let me go back here. So we had discussed how to use MOSFET as an amplifier. Then we also discussed how we call as DC biasing to set the biasing point or Q point, or what we call as operating point via the load line analysis. Okay. So we knew how to bias the transistor, and then we also so this DC biasing, basically this is also required to find the small signal model of the MOSFET. So what is a small signal model? A small signal model is the electrical equivalent circuit for this transistor. So our equivalent circuit for this MOSFET is called small signal model. So it has resistances, current source. So all those resistances, current source, in fact, all these electrical parameters of this MOSFET, which is called small signal model. So those parameters in the small signal models can only be found after you have set the Q point or operating point. Then only one can find the small signal parameters. So since the small signal model and the parameters associated are a part of circuit course, which you will be having in maybe the next few semesters, so we will not include that discussion here. Then we also commented on the choice of Q point. So whether the Q point should be near VDD or whether it should be near the triode region. So we commented on that, and we said that it should be in between or at the center of the load line, or it should be at the center of this saturation region in the VTC or voltage transfer characteristics. Otherwise, the output waveform will be clipped. That is, the positive part could be clipped and negative part can also be clipped, and also apart from that, you can have distortions in the output signal or output amplified signal. So that is why the Q point, the best location would be to bias it at the center of the load line or at the center of the transition region or saturation region in the voltage transfer character. And then we also understood the effect, the inverter effect of this common emitter configuration of this MOSFET circuit. So we understood that whatever you apply here at the input, the output will be, of course, amplified, but it will be inverted. So for a low input, you will get a high output. For a high input, you will get a low output. So that is actually an inverter action. So that can also be performed by this common emitter circuit. And then in the end, we talked about the dependence of this Q point, not Q point, the dependence of this load line slope on the drain resistance. And we said that if the drain resistance is small, then the load line could be like this. If the drain resistance is more, then the load line slope could be this, okay, in comparison to this slope, which is obtained here. And these 2 points are important for the load line analysis. This is VDD by RD point, and this is VDD. Now let us talk about the transconductance or mutual conductance of a transistor. So this is a very important parameter. In fact, the performance, it is a performance parameter. So the performance of the MOSFET, or how good the MOSFET is, so that is actually judged by, or that is determined by looking at the GM of the MOSFET. So if the GM is high, we say MOSFET is good. GM is low, MOSFET is not very good. So transconductance, GM, right? So M here stands for mutual. So this is transconductance, or it is also called mutual conductance. Now this mutual conductance or transconductance for a MOSFET is given by this relation, that is GM is 2 times the drain current divided by the gate overdrive voltage. So this overdrive voltage, the gate overdrive voltage, so this is equal to VGS minus VT. So VT is threshold voltage. So VGS minus VT. So this is the gate overdrive voltage. So GM is related to both drain current and the gate overdrive voltage. If VTH is very small, so one can say 2ID by VGS, GM is, right? So basically GM or transconductance tells us how the drain current changes, okay, with a small change in the gate bias. So if this is small, so this can be neglected. So the GM now tells me that how the drain current changes when the gate to source bias changes. So if the GM is high, so that means high switching can be possible. That is, with a very small variation in VGS or overdrive voltage, large variation in the drain current can be achieved. So that is, the MOSFET can be operated at high frequency, or the switching could be fast if GM is high. MOSFET, we have GM in bipolar junction transistor also, this BJT also. We will need BJT, then we'll talk more about this GM, but let us understand here that we have a GM in. So GM tells me, that is transconductance tells me how good the MOSFET is. It is one of the performance parameters. Okay, so both for MOSFET and BJT, right? So high GM means high switching speeds are possible. That is, MOSFET can be turn on and off quickly or very fast. Operation are possible. Now let us take one example. Let us try to design this circuit. Okay. So here we have a MOSFET whose gate is connected to ground, or gate is connected at 0 potential. Then you have a VDD supply here, 2.5 volts, VSS as minus 2.5 volts. Okay. And we have to find out, we have to design this circuit. That means we have to find out the value of this resistance, drain resistance RD, and the source resistance RS. Okay. So this is what we have to find out, the values of drain resistance and source resistance. And what is given to us is that we have been given the threshold voltage of this MOSFET as 0.7 volts. Drain current is also given, so that's good. Drain current is given to us 0.4 milliamperes, and the drain voltage is also given, so that is plus 0.5 volts, right? So drain voltage, that means this is given to us, so this is plus 0.5 volts, and drain current is given, so this is 2 micrometers, and it says neglect the channel length modulation effect. So that means lambda is 0, we are assuming. Okay. And using this, we have to find out, we have to design this circuit. That is, we have to find out the value of RD, drain resistance, and the source resistance. Okay. Drain current is given to us. Now let us try to do this. So for solving this problem, one has to first of all decide whether this MOSFET is in saturation or active region or cutoff region. So one has to decide which mode the transistor is working in, right? So for deciding the mode of operation, one has to look at the drain to source voltage, right? So this is my source here. Source voltage will be taken here, Vs. So one has to look the value of VDS. If VDS is greater than VGS minus VT, so we had studied that if VDS is greater than or equal to VGS minus VT in an N-channel MOSFET, then the MOSFET is in saturation mode. Okay. If it is less than VGS minus VT, it is in the linear mode. Okay. Right. So here we look at VDS. Okay. So VDS and VGS, right? So these two parameters, VDS and VGS. So we find that VDS is greater than VGS minus VT here. right? Because VG is 0, this is 0. Okay? So VGS means minus VS. And VDS is 0.5 minus VS, right? So obviously, since S is connected to the same potential in both VDS and VGS, and if VG is 0, so that obviously will mean that VDS would be greater than VGS. And then finally, you are also subtracting minus VT, that is, you are subtracting VT from VGS. So obviously, this thing will be true here, right? That is, VDS is obviously greater than VGS minus VT for this circuit. So that means this circuit is operating in.
सर एक बार फिर से रिपीट करना है.
Right. So to find out, to design this circuit, one has to know whether this MOSFET is operating in saturation or linear region. So to find out whether it's working in saturation or linear region, one has to look at this condition. That is, for saturation, we had studied drain to source voltage has to be greater than or equal to VGS minus VT. Okay. So if it is less than VGS minus VT, then it is in linear mode. So we have to check this condition, VDS. Okay. So VDS source is common here in both VDS and VGS. And since gate, that is this G, so this is connected to 0. So that obviously means VDS is greater than VGS minus VT. Okay. So that means this relation is true for this circuit, right? Because VDS, that is VD minus VS, is greater than VG minus VS minus VT. So that means this situation is true. So that means this saturation region. Okay. So if it is working in saturation region, then one can find out the drain current by using the drain current relation in saturation region. Right. So this is the drain current relation in saturation region. Okay. So here simply you have replaced VDS by VGS minus VT. So maybe I'll go back and show you where we had studied the drain current in saturation region. So here we have, so drain current in saturation when VDS is greater than VGS minus VT. Okay. Or maybe here also, saturation mode. Okay. So since lambda is 0, channel length modulation has to be considered 0. So this term is not there. So we have to neglect this term. So we are left with only this for VDS greater than VGS minus VT. That is, MOSFET is working in saturation. So one can find out the drain current using the relation of current, that is drain current in saturation. Okay. So one can find out the drain current in saturation. Okay. So the mu and Cox is already given to us from here 100. W and L are also given. L is 1, W is 32 micrometer. Okay. VGS minus VT. Okay. VT is given to us. Okay. Let us say VGS minus VT is overdrive voltage, VOV. Okay. And we solve for now VGS minus VT because ID is also given to us. Drain current. So this is given 0.4 milliamperes. Okay. So from this one can find out this term, VGS minus VT. So let's say VGS minus VT is overdrive voltage. Okay. So that means this becomes VGS minus VT whole square, that is V overdrive square. And then we put in ID and mu n Cox 100, W by L 32 by 1 and V overdrive whole square. So this gives me V overdrive, that is VGS minus VT, as 0.5 volts. Okay. And we understand that, so this is VGS minus VT. So we write here V overdrive as VGS minus VT. Okay. So from this VGS can, so VGS comes out to be, since VT is known to us, it's 0.7. And V overdrive we have found 0.5. So that means VGS is 1.2 volts. Now from this one can find out this source voltage Vs. I know now VGS, which is 1.2 volts, so one can find out source voltage because gate voltage is 0, right? So VGS will be VG minus Vs, that is 0 minus 1.2. So source voltage will be minus 1.2. Source voltage will be minus 1.2 volts. Okay. Now one can look at this VGS, that is VG minus Vs, that is 0 minus 1.2, that is plus 1.2. So the VGS is, that means 1.2 already here, VGS. So that means, we have applied at the gate a bias which is greater than the cut-in voltage, the threshold voltage, which is 0.7 here. That means MOSFET is on, and because since VDS is greater than VGS minus VT, so MOSFET is in saturation region. So source voltage is now minus 1.2 volts, we have found. Now this source resistance can be found. Since we know now source voltage and VSS is also known to us, so one can find out, and drain current is also known to us. So the same drain current is flowing in source also, when this source resistance. So one can find out the source resistance. Source resistance is now VS minus VSS divided by ID. VS minus VSS divided by ID. So all values are known to us now. VS is known to us. VS is 1.2 minus, we have put 1.2 minus. VSS is also known to us, minus 2.5 volts from here. And ID is also known to us. It is given 0.4 milliamperes. So resistance, that is RS, so that comes out to be equal to 3.25 kilo ohms. Now we have to find now RD. So for RD, VD is known, VDD is also known, ID is also known. So similarly, one can find out RD. That is, RD would be VDD minus VD by ID. Okay, one can check. RD would be VDD minus VD by ID. So all values are given to us. We plug in these values. VDD is 2.5, VD is 0.5, and ID is 0.4 milliamperes. So we get RD as 5 kilo ohms. That is, drain resistance is now found as 5 kilo ohms. So that means we have designed this circuit. RD and RS are known to us now. So that way one can design any circuit, not just this circuit. Okay, and you would see that the biasing technique is also different here. So earlier we had studied a common emitter amplifier where a bias at the gate was applied. So but here the biasing technique is different. Right? So this is, there could be three configurations: common emitter, gate, and common source. Okay, and then the biasing could also be different. There are many ways of biasing a circuit. So which is of course not a part of this course, but yes, this is right to understand that there are many ways of biasing the circuit. Okay. So one has to establish VGS. Okay. So that VGS can be established by many ways. So one of the ways is this. Now let us come on to a more detailed discussion. In fact, we haven't started yet. So let us talk about this bipolar junction transistors, BJT. So in a BJT, we have two types of BJT are possible. One is NPN and the other one would be PNP BJT. So obviously NPN means you have a N-type region connected to a P-type region, which is then again connected to an N-type region. So this gives me a NPN structure. Similarly, a PNP, P-type semiconductor connected to N-type, and then this in turn is connected to again a P-type semiconductor. So PNP. Okay. So NPN and PNP, two types of BJTs are there. Okay. Now this BJT is a three-terminal device we had studied some time back. So one is base terminal, so which is here in the middle. Then one could be emitter and the other one could be collector, right? So we have three terminals: emitter, collector, and base in between. Similarly, in a PNP, base in between, and then you have emitter and collectors. Okay. Now the symbol of this NPN BJT, symbol of this NPN BJT, it is represented by this symbol, where the arrow is pointing away from the base, right? So this is my base, collector and emitter. So arrow is pointing out of the base. Similarly, for a PNP transistor, the symbol is this. So here the arrow, this is pointing into the base. So this is away from the base in NPN. PNP, it is into the base. So this is basic structure of NPN and PNP bipolar junction transistor. Now here you might be noticing that there are two junctions. So one junction is here at this point, a PN junction, and here also we have a PN junction. So these two junctions are existing. That means two diodes are there in a BJT. So we have one PN junction diode, this one, and the other one PN junction diode, this one. Similarly, in a PNP transistor, one PN junction is here and the other one is here. So two PN junctions are there in a bipolar junction transistor. Now this junction is called emitter base junction. Since we have this N-type region we have called as emitter and P-type we have called as base. So this junction is called emitter base junction. Similarly, this junction, this is called, this region is collector and base, so we call it collector base junction. Similarly, in a P-type MOSFET, this junction, so this is called again emitter base junction, right? So emitter base junction. Similarly, this junction, this is called collector base junction. Okay. So two junctions in a BJT, one is emitter base junction and the other one is collector base junction. And then of course we have metal contacts on the collector side also, emitter side also, and base side also. So these metal contacts are required so that power supplies can be connected to base, emitter and collector. And these metal, please.
तो जैसे हमने मेटल कॉन्टेक्ट लगा रखा है तो यहाँ पे शॉर्टकी डायोड नहीं बन जाएगा टर्मिनल्स?
Yeah, so we have to ensure that this metal contact is ohmic. Otherwise, a Schottky contact or another diode will result here. Another junction will result. Okay? Another diode will result. Right? Schottky diode. So we don't want that Schottky diode or Schottky contact here. So we need to ensure that these metallic contacts are ohmic contacts. Okay? Similarly, in the P-type or PNP BJT, we need to ensure that these contacts at base, collector and emitter, so all these contacts are ohmic contacts, not Schottky contacts. So in a PNP transistor and also in a NPN transistor, we have identified two junctions, that is two diodes are there in both PNP transistor and NPN transistor. So two diodes, right? So two diodes which are connected back to back in NPN. Okay? So PN and PN. Right? So two diodes are connected. Similarly here, right? So this device can be modeled by considering, the connection between, the two diodes. Right? So one can apply the equations of diode equations to these two diodes and can find out the emitter current, collector current, and also the base current. Right? So that way also it can be modeled. This device can be modeled. The IV characteristics can be found. But actually, somebody if tries to, connect two diodes in the lab, you have two separate diodes, and if you try to connect them in the lab and try to make a transistor, so that is not possible. So this BJT cannot be formed by using two separate diodes which are connected this type. So you cannot make a BJT by connecting two separate diodes. So in fact, the BJT can only be created or fabricated. So this is actual device, a fabricated one. So where you have an N-type semiconductor. So yeah, so first of all, you start with the N-type semiconductor, and then you create, maybe I'll start here. So you have an N-type semiconductor, okay? And then in this N-type semiconductor, you create a cavity. That is, you dig out the N-type semiconductor from this region, and you create a cavity over here. Okay? Then in this cavity, you fill P-type semiconductor. Okay? So in this cavity, now you fill P-type semiconductor, and then again you create a window or create a cavity. That is, you take out the P-type semiconductor from this cavity, from this area, so that a cavity is formed. And then in this cavity, you deposit or you diffuse N-type impurities, and then you provide connections. So connections to these three regions. So this way, a BJT can be formed, not by connecting two separate diodes by wires. Now the the junction, the potentials between emitter and collector. So between emitter and collector, the bias is VCE. Similarly, between base and emitter, whatever bias is existing, so we call it VEB, that is emitter base bias, and this is collector base bias between collector and base. And then this is VCE, that is the potential between collector and emitter. Similarly here, in this case, for a NPN transistor. Now the direction of the current should also be noticed. For a NPN transistor, collector current comes into the collector. Okay. Base current is also coming into the base. And then these two currents are combining, IC and IB. Okay. And then you have a IE, which is going away from the emitter terminal. Right. So that is IE would be equal to IC plus IB. Okay. Similarly, for a PNP transistor, since in the PNP transistor, the arrow of in this arrow actually represents the current. The direction of the current is, emitter current is into the emitter, and the direction of the base current is out of the base, and collector current. So here also, IE, that is emitter current, is equal to IC plus IB, collector current plus base current. Okay. So in both the models, that is PNP and NPN. Okay. So in both the models, that is PNP and NPN, emitter current is equal to collector current plus base current. Emitter current is equal to collector current plus base current. But the directions of the currents are different. Right? So that one has to remember always. So the arrow, one has to see arrow. The arrow means what would be the direction of the current, the emitter current, right? And then one has to understand this collector current direction, base current direction. So these things one has to remember. So like in MOSFET, there are various modes of operation of the BJT also. So we have active region or active mode, then saturation mode, and also the cutoff mode, similar to what we had for a MOSFET. In the active region, the transistor operates as an amplifier. I mean, it can be operated as an amplifier. However, in MOSFET, we had utilized the saturation region for amplification purpose. So here, in a BJT, the active region is utilized for amplification purpose, where the collector current has a relationship with the base current. That is, collector current is equal to an amplification factor beta. So what is this? We'll understand very soon. Multiplied by the base current. The total collector current can be controlled by the base current. That means, so small base current can result into large collector current in a BJT if this amplification factor beta is large. So what is this beta? We'll talk about this when we understand the device physics. Now in saturation mode, the transistor is fully on and one can utilize the BJT as a switch in saturation mode and cutoff mode. So these two modes are utilized for switching application. That is, the transistor can be used as a switch in these two modes, cutoff and saturation, for a BJT. And in active region, it can be used as an amplifier. This is for BJT, right? So MOSFET it is different. Then similar to MOSFETs, we can have various circuit configurations. That is, one can have a circuit configuration where the base is common to both emitter and collector, so which is called common base configuration. Similarly, emitter is common to both base and collector, which is called common emitter configuration. Then the collector is common to both base and emitter, which is called common collector. Okay. So these three configurations can be utilized for circuit applications. So whenever we are trying to use the BJT in circuits, one can utilize these three configurations. Okay. Now in a common base configuration, one has to remember that input will be applied between emitter and base terminal, and output will be taken at the collector terminal or between collector and base terminal. Okay. But for a common emitter, the input is applied at the base, that is between base and emitter, and output is of course collected at the collector but between collector and emitter terminal. Okay. Not collector and base. It is taken between collector and emitter because emitter is common to both input and output. Okay. Similarly here, base was common to both input and output. Similarly in common collector, the collector is common to both input and output. So input is now applied between base and collector, and output is taken between emitter and collector. So, right, so output is collected at or taken at emitter. So this also one has to remember. Okay. Now this common base configuration, this can give you a high voltage gain but no current gain. Then common emitter, it has both current and voltage gain, it can give you. Common collector configuration, it has current gain but no voltage gain. Right. So again, these are things which you will learn in a circuit course. So which is obviously not the objective of this course. So this course is more related to the semiconductor device physics. Okay. So we will limit our discussion to semiconductor device physics itself, right? But yes, this is important to know that there are three configurations and the input and output has to be taken at these ends. Okay. And this also applies to the MOSFETs. Okay. So MOSFETs can also be used in common gate, common source and common drain. Right? Same way. Now, one important thing you will notice in these transistors BJT is that the base current here, so that is not zero. So you have some base current, right? So base current is not zero. You have some small base current. But in the MOSFET, the gate current was zero. So in the MOSFETs, we had seen the gate current was zero because the gate was insulated from the semiconductor. So gate current was zero, but in the BJT, you will have some base current. A small base current will always exist. So why it will exist? So we'll comment on that. Why there will be base current here? So we will comment on that. Let us define once again the modes of operation. So there can be 4 modes of operation. In fact, one is cutoff, active mode, reverse active modes. Right? So these 2 modes, active and reverse active mode, and then we have a saturation mode. So now these modes of operation depend upon the biasing conditions across the emitter base junction, emitter base junction and the collector base junction. So biasing condition of the emitter base junction, that is how you are biasing the PN diode here and the PN diode here on the collector side. So that decides my mode of operation. So for a cutoff mode, the emitter base junction has to be reverse biased and collector base junction also has to be reverse biased, right? So we'll comment on this. So what actually happens when this kind of biasing is applied. But yes, let us remember that the BJT is in cutoff mode when both emitter base junction and collector base junctions are reverse biased. Similarly, the BJT is in active mode when the emitter base junction is forward biased and collector base junction is reverse biased. So these are a few things which needs to be remembered. Then how this is applied in a real BJT and why the BJT comes into active and cutoff or saturation. So that we'll understand very soon. But yes, at this point, at this moment, we should remember these conditions, right? That is, there are 4 modes, and depending upon the biasing conditions on emitter base junction and collector base junction, these modes are decided. Now for a reverse active mode, so reverse active is achieved when emitter base junction is reverse biased and collector base junction is forward biased. Similarly, saturation mode is achieved when the emitter base junction is forward biased and the collector base junction is also forward biased. So that is, both junctions are forward biased. Then you have a saturation mode. Both junctions are reverse biased. You have a cutoff mode. An active mode when emitter base junction is forward biased and collector base junction is reverse biased. And then similarly the reverse active mode. Okay. Just a second. Okay. So let us consider now this picture. So let us consider this picture, and in fact in this picture the BJT is connected in common base configuration. So BJT is connected in common base configuration where this base is common to both emitter and collector. So BJT is connected in common base configuration. Now let us apply a forward bias. So this is a forward bias at the emitter base junction. So emitter base junction is a PN junction here. Right. So this is my emitter base junction. So let us apply a forward bias and let us apply a reverse bias here. So this is VR, let's say, reverse bias, and this is my forward bias. That is, emitter base junction is forward bias, okay, and collector base junction is reverse bias. So that is, if you look at the mode of operation, so this tells me that MOSFET is now, BJT is in active mode, okay, because emitter base junction is forward biased and collector base junction is reverse biased. Okay. So emitter base, that is this PN junction, is forward biased because P type is connected to positive terminal of the battery and N type is connected to negative. Right. So forward and reverse biases are established on emitter base junction and collector base junction. Okay. Now what happens when a forward bias, what happens in a forward bias junction, that is this junction, this PN junction, and let us say this is heavily doped. This is emitter, so let us say it is heavily doped. So that is why we have utilized P plus here. This is a PNP BJT, and let's say emitter is heavily doped. So this is P plus region. Okay. So what happens if this diode is forward biased? So can somebody say? So what happens when the diode is forward biased? What happens to diffusion and drift? Kunal, Rahul Pant.
डिफ्यूजन तो बढ़ेगी, ड्रिफ्ट कम होगी।
डिफ्यूजन तो बढ़ जाएगी।
Okay. So when you forward bias this junction,
negligible हो जाएगा।
okay. So first thing you would notice that depletion region will shrink here. Okay. So because the depletion region shrinks, so that means you have disturbed the equilibrium. Okay. So because you have disturbed the equilibrium, the electrostatic potential at the junction has also reduced. That is, built-in potential has reduced now. So holes will start diffusing from P to N, and electrons start diffusing from N to P. Okay. So let us say holes diffuse, that is, holes are diffusing from P to N, and in N, when they come in N region, okay, so holes are diffusing and they are now injected into N-type region. Because of diffusion, holes are now injected into N-type region. Okay. Now, this width of this base, WB, okay, so width of this base has to be small. Okay. Why it has to be small? In fact, it has to be less than the diffusion length of the holes. Okay. So the width of this N region or base, so that should be less than the diffusion length of holes. Okay. Because these holes which are emitted from the emitter, we want these holes to reach and to be collected at the collector. Okay. So that I have a current from collector to emitter. Okay. So if these holes, so if these holes, that is, which are emitted from emitter, they come into base, and then from this, this junction is reverse biased, so electric field is high in this region. Sorry, PN. So electric field direction will be from here. So electric field is high in this reverse bias junction. Now the holes which have come into the base region, they come near this depletion region, and because of this electric field, they will be swept away into the collector region. So that means collector can collect holes which are emitted from the emitter, provided that these holes, they do not recombine in this N region, in the base region. Okay. So how to ensure that these holes do not recombine in the base region? So to ensure that these holes do not recombine in the base region, we want to make base width small, smaller than the diffusion length of the holes. Okay. Of course, there will be some recombination, but yes, you can prevent that recombination to a very large extent if the base width is much smaller than the diffusion length of the holes. Okay. So that is why always in a BJT, always in a transistor, the width of the base is smaller than the emitter and collector region. So always. Okay. In fact, emitter is the largest, the biggest, because it has to emit carriers. Okay. So emitter is largest, base is smallest. So that is actually the principle of current in a BJT. That is, in a PNP transistor, the holes are emitted from the emitter, they come into the base region, and if the base region width is small, not many of these holes will be recombined here, and then because of this reverse bias junction, that is, collector base junction is reverse bias, you have high electric field. So any hole which has come here near this depletion region will be swept away into the collector region, and the collector will commit the holes, and because of this, you'll have a current between collector and emitter, and the direction of this current will be for a p-type MOSFET into the emitter, right? So here we had seen the direction of the current for a p-type MOSFET is into the emitter in this case. Okay. So here also, since holes are moving from emitter to collector, okay, so that means current will also be in the direction of holes. So you have a current from collector to emitter, okay, that is into the emitter. Current is into the emitter current. Okay. Now for a good transistor, we have certain conditions to make a good BJT. First thing is that we would want all these holes which are emitted to reach the collector. Okay. So all holes which are injected into the base region, so they should reach the collector region. So that is first condition for a good transistor, good PNP transistor. All the holes which are injected into the base, so they should reach the collector. That is only possible if you have no recombination of the holes in the base. Okay. So holes will since recombine with electrons in the n-type region, that is in the base. So if you can stop that recombination, then so that would be a best transistor. But actually that is not completely possible. Okay. Why that is not completely possible? We'll comment on that. Now, one can also look at the IV characteristic of a BJT. So I on the y-axis and VCE, that is collector to emitter voltage, on the x-axis. And then instead of applying a gate bias, we are applying now the current at the gate, not gate, base. Right? So instead of applying a bias at the base, we are applying small current at the base, that is small IB current. Right? So current IB. Okay. So with the increase in IB, you will see that the collector current also increases. Okay. So this is IV characteristic of a BJT. So with the changes in base current, that is as the base current is increasing, the collector current is also increasing. Since collector current is equal to beta times IB. Okay. So IB is increasing, that is input current at the base is increasing, so collector current is also increasing. Okay. Now in this IV characteristic, this dotted line over here, so towards the left of this dotted line, so towards the left of this dotted line, the region is called saturation region, and over the right, this is called active region. So you will find that the names are different if you compare with the MOSFET. So in MOSFET we had saturation region here and active region here, but here we say that this is my saturation region and this is my active region in a BJT. Then of course cutoff, that is when the base current is 0, so collector current will also be 0. So then there will be a cutoff zone also when base current is 0. And this active region or saturation region or the cutoff region, so this depends upon the biasing conditions at the emitter base junction and the collector base junction. So depending upon the biasing conditions at the emitter base junction and collector base junction, one can decide whether the BJT is in cutoff mode, forward active, reverse active, or saturation region. So that is, we had already commented through this table. So I think you might have a class after this, so we'll end up the lecture here itself. And if you have any queries, then you can ask.